Welcome to my channel. In this video I am finishing a mid-size garter mum. Now I have already attached all the braids and chains and ribbons and most of the trinkets and stickers. Here I am attaching the very last trinket. It's an oversized 3D football, but I just wanted to put something dramatic on there. And I am going to attach all the different sections together. I did make a video for the backer, the twisted loops, so if you want to see that, that's a separate video. Now I'm going to show you a little bit different way to attach the garter. I realized this year that I didn't have to use a full circle backer, so I did something a little differently, so this will give you a different option. I hope you enjoy the video. Please comment, like, share, subscribe, tap the bell for notifications, and please be nice with your comments. Thank you. Okay, what I'm doing is cutting the garter in half. Now, if they are a smaller young man or maybe even elementary or something, or they're just skinny, you might want to cut off a couple of inches off that garter, 1 or 2 inches. If not, if they're bigger, leave it alone. If you don't know, I just leave it alone. And here I am. I just cut this piece of chipboard. You can see it's rectangular and it's probably at least 2 inches thick, I would say. So I'm just cutting the edges so it matches up along the east and west side of the round backer. That way when I attach it, it won't be sticking out on the sides. But you see, I don't have to use a full round backer. I don't have to go all the way up and down because the garter isn't touching that part, so why does it matter? So all I'm going to do, so this would be like a different version of a half backer, I guess. So I'm just going to make sure that those, like I said, those edges are lined up, because I want the back, when I get it all put together, I want it to be nice and clean. So I'm just going to hot glue this garter on both sides, and then I always add staples too, because you want it nice and secure. I would recommend letting the hot glue dry before you staple it, otherwise you're going to have glue all over your stapler. Now this backer is still big enough that I will be able to add lots of hot glue and lots of staples to the backer that it will be attached to. Just line those backers up. I like to make sure they are lined up perfectly as possible. So again, when you add that last backer, that white one, that it's nice and clean looking. You can't see me, but I am putting 2 staples there at the top, and the reason why I do 2 is because if you only do 1, I notice that sometimes the backers can slide, and so they will not be lined up like you had them. So if you add 2 staples there at the top, they will stay where you want them to stay, and not stapled on top of each other. I mean stapled side by side like I just showed. And you just want to hot glue all around, not a whole bunch of hot glue because then it'll be gushing out everywhere and then you'll have a big mess on your hands. So just try to hot glue the center part, and then I just flip it over and start my stapling. And you always want to be careful when you're stapling around the bottom where the ribbons and braids are. You just want to make sure that you're not stapling something you don't want stapled. Here on the back side, I have stapled those ribbons sideways before. They got like flipped over and I wasn't looking at what I was stapling, and then I flipped it over and saw ribbons going in different directions because I stapled them going upwards. So learn from my mistakes and always check everywhere before you actually staple down. And you just want to make sure that you're stapling all around as much as you can. Get as much as you can there on the bottom too. I know sometimes it's hard to get to the middle, but I try to staple over all those braids if I can. So you see me lifting up all those loops and just trying to get as many staples in there as I can, going all the way around the backers. Now I'm going to attach the flower. I've already secured the chenille stem. If you don't know how to do that, if you're new to my videos, I have more than one video showing how to do that. I actually have one video that's just showing how to secure the mum flower, so look that up. I've got playlists that have mum making, backers, some that are for just braids and chains. So go through my playlist, they're all organized. And then several of the ones where I'm putting the mums together, I show actually securing the mum flower too, but I'm not going to do it on every single video. So if you need to see that, I do have that available. And like I've shown you, I put it through the backers. I staple the chenille stem down, that way the flower will not fall out. Now I will add hot glue under the mum flower onto the backer for extra security. Plus you don't want the mum flower flipping up and then being able to see all that mess that's under there. Always attach your garter going east and west. That's the way it's going to go on their arms, so make sure it's always going left to right, east to west. You can see I'm hot gluing it on first. It's not going to lay on there completely flat because of the garter. Just start going ahead and stapling it down. That way the hot glue set, it will be nice and flat because you don't want any gaps between your backers. That's going to look really sloppy if you have big gaps in your backers. So make sure you're pressing down when you hot glue and then start adding staples, and the staples will secure it flat. Get as much hot glue in there and as many staples on there as you can. It's really hard to staple, I know, especially around the garter part. Just get as many close to the garter as you can, because I do like to staple that garter down, not just the backer, just so if it's pulled tight or if someone's pulling on it, you don't want it coming apart. So just do the best you can. Get as much in there as you can. Now I'm going to add my clean backer. And you guys know I cut all my backers myself. Well, I found these cheap paper plates at Dollar Tree. I think you get 20 for $1, and they're a pretty thin chipboard, but for the back the very last one. It doesn't need to be super thick. So it's a little bit thinner than a regular backer. But I cut a sloppy circle, and then I put it on my scan and cut mat, and I cut it at 5.35 a circle, and so it comes out perfectly circled for the very back one, and it's a little bit bigger than my other backers. That way it's covering up every part of those chipboards that are, got printed on and stuff. So it looks nice and clean, and it's covering everything up. So that's what I've been doing on the last few mums I've been making. Instead of trying to cut a perfect circle, I started putting it in my scan and cut, and it has worked so well. Plus you get, like I said, you get 20 for $1. You can't beat that. So when things slow down, hopefully in the spring, I will probably cut a whole bunch of these, so I'll be prepared for next year. And I even thought about getting different colors, and that way I can do the different colors with the school, like a red one or a blue one or a black one or whatever that looks good with their school colors. I thought that might look neat, so I'm going to try that. We'll see. I'll make some videos, I'm sure, during the winter or spring or whenever. Like I said, when everything starts slowing down, I'll do a bunch of projects like that. Now make sure you glue this last one down very well. Like I said, on the other one, don't put too much hot glue. You don't want it gushing out. So just little bits at a time. I start with the or I start on one side and kind of in the middle, and then I go around the very edges and make sure that it's all glued down and it's covering everything up so it looks nice and professional. You can see when you lift up those twisted loops, you can see that brown backer. So what I do is I just add a little bit of hot glue. It's a real light amount. I'm not adding a lot, and then I'm pushing those loops down. That way they won't come up and you won't see that mess. So I'll show you. I go all the way around. I do all of them, and like I said, it's just a really light amount of hot glue. Just kind of press that down a little bit. Don't bend the loops though. Be careful with the ribbons. And now you see they won't come up and they won't see any of that. So I finally measured one of these when they're finished. I keep telling people the braids and chains and everything are 15 inches long, but I didn't know what the total length was. And of course, no two are exactly the same, but 21 inches is about what these mid-size garters turn out to be. And the girls are probably a little bit longer because sometimes I add, bigger loops or something to theirs. But I think 21, 22 inches is probably going to be a good estimate on how long these are. Now I'm just going to add this little wooden football. I put his number on there with white vinyl. White shows up the best on these little footballs. So just hot gluing all around it. Set it however you want on there. I like to put them a little diagonal. And then you can set like a pair of scissors or your stapler or something on there just to kind of press it down until the glue dries. And I don't like to do this when the hot glue is fresh because it's so easy to burn yourself. So be very, very careful. That's why I've been putting the scissors on there. That way it has a chance to dry some at least. And then you can still add a little bit more if you need to, if it's not real secure on one side or something. Just like to make sure that it's on there really good. Wanted to add this last little trinket on there, just to give him one more little something different. So I kind of move it around until I see where I like it best. And that's what I'm always, whenever I'm making any mum, I just move things around until I see what I like best and then I glue it on. I'm making a simple little bow out of this ribbon, and this ribbon is not, girly at all. It's a little bit masculine. But when I hot glued that football there at the bottom, I had to use quite a bit of hot glue. And when you do that, sometimes you can see the hot glue after it dries. So I am just attaching this right above that football, pressed down kind of on the football. That way it's covering that hot glue up. Now in the middle of this bow, I'm going to put a little football button just to add, a little embellishment, but make it a good embellishment for a guy. If it was for a girl, I'd put some kind of rhinestone, but of course you don't want to do that for a girl. So I got all these cute little buttons in different sports. You can buy those in the sewing department, like at Hobby Lobby or anywhere else that sells fabrics. They make the cutest little buttons in all kinds of different sports. So you can find things like that and put them in the middle of a bow and just make it kind of unique and different. Now I'm going to make a bow out of some deco mesh tubing. This is silver, and you can call this a bow or you can just call it some loops. And I'm just going to put it on either side of that football on the mum flower, excuse me, and it'll just kind of set it off a little bit. So it will not girl it up at all. Sometimes you can add things like this and it, it's not going to make it too girly. Okay guys, that's the end. I hope you liked this video. I hope it helped you out. Please remember to subscribe and tap the bell for notifications. Like, share, comment. Thank you. Everybody stay safe and be kind to others.